Today I want to talk with you about the powerful eclipses that are coming up next month in July 2019. On July 2nd, we will have a total solar eclipse at the time of the new moon. And on July 16th, at the time of the full moon, we will have a partial lunar eclipse. Remember that eclipses are a wake-up call. A solar eclipse may occur in an event or in an experience that is trying to bring something to our awareness. It is trying to call us to be looking at something that we need to address, that we need to deal with in our lives, individually and collectively. I view lunar eclipses as impacting us more on an emotional level. Lunar eclipses are trying to help us work something at an emotional level that needs to be brought into our awareness, that needs to be healed, or that needs to be transformed. So, what are the messages of these eclipses next month? I really believe these eclipses are particularly powerful because the solar eclipse is landing opposite that really powerful configuration in the sky, the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto and the South Node. So the new moon, which will be the time of the solar eclipse, is happening in the sign of Cancer opposite Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node in Capricorn. And remember that eclipses occur when the sun and moon are close to the lunar nodes. The lunar nodes really speaking to what are we dealing with karmically? What are we really meant to be addressing in our lives? Again, both as individuals and as a global community. So the new moon and sun on July 2nd are right by the North Node in Cancer. Again, opposite this really powerful transformational combination of Saturn and Pluto and the South Node in Capricorn. And remember, I've talked before about how that configuration in Capricorn with Saturn and Pluto is a call for us to look at what forms and structures in our lives are needing to be transformed, no longer serve us, no longer are true to who we are, no longer are an expression of our authenticity as individuals. And we're meant to look collectively at what are the systems, institutions, and structures of our lives collectively that are destructive, that are out of balance, that are needing to be transformed. So as we experience this solar eclipse that is calling attention to this transformational combination, we may experience world events or events in our own lives that are saying, wake up, look at those forms and structures in your lives that need to be changed. And remember, the North Node is in Cancer. The growing edge is how do we let go of these old forms and patterns and paradigms that are destructive in order to move into new forms, new ways of being that are more nurturing, that are more nurturing to ourselves and to each other. So it's a call to let go of old ways of being that are really out of balance, that are destructive, that are toxic, and to look at what ways we can move into new forms that are more integrative of who we are emotionally, of our sensitivity and caring for ourselves and for each other. So this new moon solar eclipse is really trying to bring this more fully to our attention. I also feel like there is a profound connection with these eclipses and the Venus cycle. As we are moving into July, Venus, who has been with us as a morning star for about 9 months, is now going to disappear under the beams of the sun for the next few months until she reappears in October as an evening star. When Venus disappears for this longer period of time, this is when Venus is in her superior conjunction with the sun. This means that Venus is circling around the backside of the sun in order to eventually reemerge in the western sky shortly after sunset, when she returns as an evening star. I like to think of this longer period of time of Venus's disappearance as a time when Venus goes into meditation, into contemplation. Remember her earlier in the cycle, when she disappears from view in her inferior conjunction, which is when Venus goes into conjunction with the sun and is between the earth and the sun. So she's right between us and the sun in that intense configuration that often, and it's a shorter time frame, but it's often a time of incredible transformation. This is the time in the myth of Inanna when Inanna goes through a death and rebirth. It's often a time in our lives and in our relationships where we're called into some kind of crisis, into some kind of underworld experience that's calling us into transformation. And this is when Venus is disappearing as an evening star and then reemerges shortly after that as a morning star. So in this longer period where Venus disappears from her morning star phase for about 3 months until she reappears in the evening sky, I think of it as the time when Venus is taking time to meditate, to come back into balance. She's actually communing with the stars. She's not in contact with the earth. She's not visible to the earth. She is behind the sun, communing with the cosmos. And then when she emerges as an evening star, that is the period of the Venus cycle where she is in balance and in harmony. She is the queen of the heavens. She is that bright evening star that lights up our sky. So these eclipses are coming just at the time that Venus is disappearing from view. And she's a critical part of this eclipse cycle, because when we get to the time of the full moon and the partial lunar eclipse, Venus is right there beside the sun and the north node, opposite the moon, which is now right beside Pluto and Saturn and the south node. So this eclipse cycle is saying this configuration of Cancer, Capricorn, north node, south node, this time of transformation, this time of looking at what forms and structures in our lives need to be reconfigured in order to move into new ways of being. Venus is a powerful part of the mix. So what does that mean? Remember that Venus is really symbolic of a number of things in our lives. Venus is about our relationships. Venus is about our values. And Venus is also about how we are in balance or in harmony in our lives. So as we deal with Venus being impacted by these eclipses next month, it's a time in particular to be evaluating the relationships in your life. What relationships are you in that are out of balance? What patterns need to be addressed in your significant relationships? What changes do you need to make in order for those relationships to move in a direction that is more nurturing to you and is more compassionate to that other person? It's also a time to be assessing your values. And that includes your sense of self-worth. In what ways are you out of balance in your sense of yourself and who you are and your gifts and your resources? This is a time to reflect and contemplate and come into more balance within yourself, to honor who you are in your uniqueness, to be in right relationship with yourself. It's also a time to look at what are your values and priorities in your life, including how you work with your finances. Are you in balance? Are the ways that you expend your energy and your resources, including your money, are they reflective, those patterns, are they reflective of your deeper values, of what's most meaningful to you? And are they in balance? So this is a powerful time to reflect on how you are in relationship with yourself, how you are in relationship with other people, how you are in connection with your own sense of self-worth and how you use your resources. So as we enter into this eclipse cycle and this new moon and powerful full moon lunar eclipse, really allow yourself to step back and reflect on these aspects of your life. Allow the energies of this solar eclipse and lunar eclipse to help you see what you need to see. Remember that eclipses are that juxtaposition of light and dark. We see the sun and then it disappears in the eclipse and then it reappears. And the same happens with the lunar eclipse. It's a reminder to look at the wholeness of who we are, the light and the dark within us, and to see ourselves in a more conscious way, and to look at these patterns in our lives and to make the changes that we need to make. It's a time when if things have been in the darkness, have been hidden in the shadows, it may come into our awareness, come into the light of consciousness, so that we can transform, so that we can heal, so that we can move into these new ways of being. What's remarkable is not only the energies of the signs of the zodiac that these eclipses are in. So again, the new moon is at 10 degrees of Cancer. The full moon lunar eclipse will be at 24 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn. But some of you, in response to some of my earlier videos, have said, but that's actually not where the sun and moon are in the sky. And you're right. And I don't want to go into the details of how it is that what's in our tropical zodiac charts are different than where things actually are in the sky right now. But in brief, it has to do with the fact that our charts are fixed in time, approximately 1500 years ago, and did not account for the shifts in the sky with the precessional cycle, which means our view of the sky shifts 1 degree every 72 years. So if we really are wanting to look at where things are in the sky, it's really important to work with visual astrology, because the constellations in the sky are not in equal segments. They're different sizes, different shapes. So what I do in my own work with astrology, and those of you who are on my email list, my free newsletter each month that is describing the meaning of the lunar cycle, will know that I'm working with both the tropical zodiac, which we use in Western astrology, and visual astrology, which is looking at where are things actually in the stars. I find that combination very powerful. The way that I understand it is that when we look at where the sun and the moon and the planets are actually in the sky on any particular moment, the moment of our birth or the moment of these eclipses, we're seeing in essence what is the spiritual energy that is coming through. When we look at where these things land in our charts in the tropical zodiac, we're looking at where they land in the signs of the zodiac, which are now connected more with our seasonal cycle than with the literal placement in the stars in the sky. And that's important because I really believe that when we are born, in the energies of the earth and the seasonal cycles is very important in shaping who we are and who we become. So I really see the energy of visual astrology showing us what are these energies that are coming through to incarnate. And then the signs of the zodiac and the chart are showing us how is that going to manifest on the earth plane. So let's talk for a minute about where these eclipses actually occur in the sky. On July 2nd, the sun and the moon will be conjunct, and they're actually in the stars of Gemini. And Venus, which is close by because it's now under the beams of the sun, disappearing from view, is actually right at the upraised arm of Orion. That is a very powerful part of the sky. The upraised arm of Orion. In ancient Egyptian symbolism, we see it also in ancient Greece. This symbol of the god with the upraised arm, and remember Orion is very symbolic of Osiris in ancient Egyptian mythology. This is the god who's creating order from chaos. The god who is victorious, who is transforming strife, disorder, chaos back into order and balance. Venus is right there at the upraised arm of Orion. Again, this eclipse, this solar eclipse is saying, pay attention. This is time that we move from paradigms that are causing destruction and chaos. And look at what's going on in the world around us. We can name so many things that are happening politically, economically, environmentally, on every level that are creating harm, destruction, chaos. And this eclipse is saying, wake up, let go of those old paradigms, pay attention to how you are in relationship with yourself, with others, how you're using your resources, what are your values. Venus, upraised arm of Orion. It is time to move into new paradigms that are in order, that are balanced. It's time to co-create a new world that is more nurturing to ourselves and to all life forms. As we move into the time of the full moon and the lunar eclipse, Venus is now right beside the sun, and right on the North Node in the stars of Gemini, right by the star Al-Wasat, which is known as the middle star of the twins. And remember, Gemini, the twins, that constellation speaks to the balance of light and dark, of mortality, of immortality. It is as if this lunar eclipse is saying, look at your life and where it is out of balance. Come into the wholeness of who you are. And look at how you can honor your immortal self, your soul self, but manifest who you are on the earth plane in a way that is balanced and in harmony and in right relationship with all that is. At the time of this full moon lunar eclipse, our full moon is actually in the stars of Sagittarius, right beside Pluto and Saturn. So while they're in the chart in Capricorn, they're actually in the sky in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is this most amazing constellation that is the archer with the bow and arrow. And the tip of the arrow of the archer is literally pointing to the center of the galaxy, that dark rift in the Milky Way. Ancient cultures knew this is the center of our galaxy. And it's as if Sagittarius is saying, that's the spot, that's the source. So the archer of Sagittarius is the one who keeps his focus on source, who is guided by being in alignment with the consciousness of the cosmos. So if you think about this powerful combination of Saturn and Pluto, yes, on the earth plane, they're in Capricorn. What are the structures in our lives that are destructive, that need to change? And in the sky, Pluto and Saturn are in Sagittarius, saying the way that you move into the new forms that are more nurturing and are in balance is by keeping your gaze on the source of all that is. Keep your focus on that creative consciousness that moves through the cosmos, the source of all of life. If we can keep our gaze and our alignment with that source, then what we manifest in our lives will be in balance and in harmony with all that is. It's a beautiful song that the universe is singing for us to guide us through this time of transformation. And remember, the turmoil isn't and needn't be that we're on a path of destruction. The turmoil can be the labor pains for birthing new lives, new forms, new paradigms, co-creating a new world together by opening our consciousness to the cosmic consciousness and coming back into right relationship with all that is. As we then move through these eclipses and Venus continues in her time of disappearance and contemplation, she will reemerge in October as an evening star. What's exquisite is she will emerge as an evening star in the sky right next to Spica, one of the brightest stars in the sky, and the star that is in the constellation of Virgo, the harvest goddess, holding the sheaf of wheat, Spica, the gift to humanity, to feed us, to sustain us, to nurture us. So Venus is saying, Do your inner work. Take this time of contemplation to look at those patterns that need to shift individually and collectively. Listen to the wake-up call of the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. And then do that work of transformation, of healing, in order to begin to emerge in new forms in October that are more in balance and in harmony. As Venus emerges in the sky by the star Spica, in the chart, she's in Libra. Libra being that sign of the zodiac that speaks to being in balance, being in harmony in your relationships, in your values, in how you use your resources. And Venus will be squaring Pluto and Saturn and the lunar nodes. It's like this is a critical karmic choice point. How are you working this time of transformation? And if we listen to the song of the cosmos, if we hear how it's calling us back into harmony, back into right relationship within ourselves, with each other, with all that is, with Mother Earth, with the sky, then we can, in fact, begin to manifest those new forms and move from a path of destruction to a path of co-creating together a new world with new paradigms that are about how we honor each other, the diversity of life on Earth, and come into balance and harmony. May we listen to the song of the sky, to the song of Mother Earth. May we open to these energies. May we pay attention to the wake-up call of the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. May we, like Venus, take this time that she is in her time of disappearance, communing with the stars. May we also commune with the stars and listen to the heartbeat of Mother Earth to come back into balance and harmony. Blessed be.